Italian Football Podcast.
Next question comes in from Nikos, who says, how will Theo Hernandez be remembered at AC Milan? What do you think?
Well, I think that at the end of the day, he was there when they won the Scudetto, and he was a key player when they won the Scudetto. So I think at the end of the day, that has to be the overriding memory, doesn't it, of Theo Hernandez? It's as a Milan team that when he joined were really a laughingstock. And I would say that people probably forget that he was one of the players that kind of brought Milan back towards the top of Serie A, didn't he? Like when he joined, they were at shambles, really. And he came and he was, and he exploded. And it was obviously Paolo Maldini who believed in him and convinced him to join. He was instrumental, and he was like such a train, wasn't he? He was such a force. Nima's laughing. I don't know why he's laughing, as I haven't said anything funny.
No, I was gonna put some. Never mind. WhatsApp does this. I was gonna send something in our group chat, and I'll send it to a friend, and he was wondering what the hell's going on.
Okay, just seeing Nima sniggering to himself there while I'm talking. I think that things have gone wrong in the last few seasons, or the last couple of seasons, really. Maybe motivation, maybe like the problems of with Milan in general. I think that after Maldini left, he was very attached to Paolo Maldini, Theo Hernandez, very attached to Paolo Maldini. And I think that when Maldini left and the way that Maldini was treated, I think that affected Theo Hernandez. I do. And I think that after Maldini left, we never saw Theo Hernandez, the same Theo Hernandez again. So I think that he's very much linked to Maldini, Theo Hernandez. When Maldini was there, Theo Hernandez was really, one of the best in the world. He's always a very flawed and incomplete player. He's never been a good defensively. He's always been a bit inconsistent. He's always had some defensive brain farts. But going forward, fantastic player to watch. The kind of player that we don't have enough of these players. We complain about not having these kind of individual. He is an individual. And he scored some fantastic goals. There's coast-to-coast goals. So I would like to try and remember the good from Theo Hernandez more than the kind of like the negativity of the last season, where it's been a disastrous last season for Theo and for Milan, everything on the pitch and off the pitch.
No, I think that's a very good point. I think the fact that Theo, Leao, Mignon, they became kind of the symbols of that Milan side under Elliott, with Maldini, Massara, Pioli, Zlatan, the way that Milan's return to relevancy by bringing them back into the into the Champions League, launching a Scudetto battle, finishing second, then winning it, and of course Leao being the MVP, but Theo just as important. Mignon was fantastic, and to me, they will be remembered in that Milan for what they did. Unfortunately, Milan were not in a position to push forward and challenge for, build a dynasty and build a winning cycle, because of the ownership situation and the new owners coming in and not being able to spend the way they did, and all the shit show that we saw with Maldini and Massara and all that. It kind of became a little bit of it all fizzled out instead of becoming the starting point of a winning cycle and a dynasty. Similar to when Italy won the Euros, and we were all thinking this could actually be a winning cycle, but instead it was more like it all kind of fizzled off. And for various reasons, it wasn't the start of a dynasty, but it was just, that was the peak. And I think a little bit that's how I view this Milan, if I put it in context in Milan's history, that they managed to recover. They came to a point, but they hit a ceiling, and they were unable to, build upon that. And I feel that a lot, Rafael Leao and Theo Hernandez especially, almost embodies that in a way, that it kind of all fizzled out a little bit. And of course, him. So the question is, will he be remembered as a Milan legend? No, because to
No.
become a Milan legend, that's a very high bar to clear. Milan legend means you have to compete with the Maldinis, the Baresis, the Ancelottis. Do you know what I mean? Like the Van Bastens, the Gulits, the Rijkaards. He's not on. He never was at that level. He was fantastic. He was one of the best left backs in the world fullbacks in the world when he was at his peak. There's no doubt about that. But you also have to remember where Italian football and Milan were when he had his greatest moments, quote unquote, at Milan. And it wasn't the Milan of the 80s and 90s and noughties when Milan used to win Champions Leagues and were the best team in the world. It was a Milan trying to recover the Italian top level and not even European top level, which they kind of never really reached, one semi-final of the Champions League notwithstanding. So I don't think he will be remembered as a Milan legend at all, but I do think he will be remembered fondly for that 19th Scudetto, where Milan were able to take that away from Inter and stop Inter from creating a winning cycle, winning 2 Scudetti in a row. And of course, you have to mention, as one of our patrons said, that these Scudetto celebrations that Inter and Milan had with Dumfries and Theo and these banners that they hold up and burning each other he's a Milan fan. He said it's one of the greatest things that has happened to either club, and the fan base is because it's been so spicy and funny. And I mean, his battles with Denzel Dumfries, they're now Milan derby folklore.
Yeah.
You know, they belong to Milan derby history.
Dumfries spoke about it this week, actually, as well.
What did he say? I missed that.
He said that he was actually quite respectful, actually. He said that it's part of the game, but it's exciting. And he says, because he obviously knows that Theo's leaving, says he hopes to continue and have more battles with him, but in the France versus Netherlands.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you have these kind of players who, remember Roy Keane, Patrick Vieira. You had Wenger and Ferguson. You had these kind of, they are rivals, and it got very heated. But at the end of, I'm of the opinion that these people have an immense, deep respect for one another, despite all the things that happened, and it got, crossed the line many, many times.
Yeah, I think so. I think sometimes, it obviously depends on the person, but sometimes if you're showing emotion towards somebody, it's because it means something.
Yeah.
If you're showing complete indifference towards something, then you don't give a shit. That's how I look at it. Which is why sometimes when someone's deliberately trying to get at you, the best thing is to not even react at all. Because if you don't react at all, it just means I don't care. when you get angry and emotional and it's a real kind of fight, then it shows. So I think that it probably goes both ways. I do think that though Dumfries generally won the battle, most of these battles, these personal battles. But I think that, Theo Hernandez, I think you're right though. In terms of answering the question, I think you're right. I think that, but this is a difficulty with all players that played in Serie A over the last 10 years because of the decline of Serie A. It's very difficult to actually name too many all-time legends for any club in the last 10 years. It's difficult. There's not many. For someone like one of the Scudetto winners, for example, from Milan from 2022, you'd maybe be describing someone at best as a modern legend, maybe a legend of the 21st century, maybe. But an all-time legend, then you're not competing with anybody from Carlo Ancelotti's Milan or Sacchi's Milan or Capello's Milan or Nerio Rocco's Milan. I mean, that's just on another stratosphere.
Exactly, and it's like exactly that, and also, I mean, I feel the same way about, for example, there are players in the 2010 treble-winning Inter team. Thiago Motta was never an Inter legend. He was part of a legendary team, but he was never an Inter legend. Christian Chivu was part of a legendary Inter team. He loves Inter, and all of that is true. but he's not a club legend. I think you need more. Javier Zanetti is a club legend. Do you know what I mean? Like you need more. Marco Materazzi is a club legend. You know, I think when it comes to legend, there's more than just being successful when the club is at its best. There's also more. You know, it's how you leave the club. If you leave the club, it's how you carry yourself whilst you're at the club, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's consistency, it's longevity, it's trophies, it's the level of you know, the competition, the level
and
of
loyalty as well.
Yeah, loyalty. Yeah, there's a bit of everything. I do think Theo's been loyal, though. To be honest, I think he would have loved to have stayed at Milan. I don't think loyalty's ever been an issue with him.
No.
I think he does love Milan. I think he wanted to stay, but obviously he's been pushed out now.
He has.